Hey folks, and welcome to our midweek training here at GoPro Trading Academy, being held by yours truly, Ian Giffen. And today we are going to be looking at how to buy and sell using MetaTrader 4, otherwise known as short as MT4. All right, but before we start, if you're enjoying our material, please do hit that like button. And if you haven't yet subscribed to our channel, then if you would enjoy getting high quality professional training from us, when it comes out, then do subscribe to the channel and hit that notifications bell so that you know exactly when it's being brought out. All right, so without further ado, let's jump into our training on how to buy and sell using MetaTrader 4. First of all, I also want to point out that I'm not going to be worrying about calculating the position sizes in this video. If you do want to know more about that, then I have already done an extensive training on this in risk management for Forex traders. So I will put up a link for that. Make sure you go and watch that. It is complete and will show you everything you need to know in order to do risk management properly in MT4 and for Forex trading. All right, so first of all, I'd like to point out that we're going to be looking at three types of order. You get market execution order, where you really just click the button and get into the market immediately. Then you also get two types of pending orders. One is a stop order and the other is a limit order. So I'm going to show you how to use all three of those. First of all, starting with the standard tools that MT4 gives us. There are some other custom tools that you can use as well, but let's get going with MT4 standard tools. The obvious place to go would be the new order button on the toolbar. And if you hit that, it brings up your trade ticket from where you can apply all of the parameters that you want to in order to take this trade. Now, first of all, you'll notice that the type of trade we're looking at here initially is market execution. I'm going to leave it just at that. I already know that my position size for this trade is 0.89. So I'm just going to put that in. And as I mentioned before, if you want to know how to calculate that number, then go and watch our risk management training. It is important that you put this number in first, however, because if you go and put in your stop loss and take profit, and certainly when you're using pending orders, as you'll see just now, if you come back to change this later, it resets some of those numbers, and we don't really want that. All right, so that's the first thing we're actually looking at. Secondly, I want to go long here. So it's going to be a buy market. And my initial stop is going to be just below the low of this fractal. So how much below? Well, I'm just going to make it 1 pip. We do use a proportion of ATR in our trading, but just let's keep it simple for now. And the low of this candle is 113.34. So I'm going to make my stop loss 113.33. Let's just double check that. Yeah, 113.33. So I can actually just overwrite that and just put a whole bunch of zeros. The take profit, well, the nice thing about take profit is you can actually come back and do it a little bit later. And very often that is advisable because if you are using market execution, you really don't want to waste time. So I'm going to just go ahead and do that. And by the way, you can see there is also the option for tagging your trades or knowing exactly what kind of trade you're taking and so on and so forth. Right, so let me hit that buy market and bam, you can see there we are in. If I wanted to now go and put my take profit in, there are a number of ways of doing it, but to be honest with you, the easiest way is to just click and drag on your entry. Now, you can't do this with pending orders. You can only do it once you're actually into the trade. So I'm going to do that. And let's just assume that for our purposes here, we wanted to target at 114 well, just under 0.3. So we'll make it 297. Now I have got it set so that we don't have one-click trading. And I would really advise that you never, ever use one-click trading. And because of that, it brings up the modify order ticket once again. So all I need to do is click modify, and there it is. It's done and dusted. All right, so that is an entry for at market using the a buy order here on this particular currency pair. All right, so obviously I'm using a demo account here so that I can actually take some real trades. I hope that that's clear. I'm going to now delete this one and show you how to do exactly the opposite to go short on this market. So to delete a trade, or to close a trade, I should say, because it's already running, I just right-clicked on the actual trade execution line, and it brings up this context menu, which gives me the option either to modify the trade, and I may want to do that, let's say for trailing stops and so on, or else to close it down completely. So let me do that for now. And as you can see, it brings up that ticket again. I hit close, and there we are out of the trade. Now, let's say that I wanted to go in the opposite direction. Now, normally, from a strategic point of view, that's not something I'd be too happy about on this particular instrument at the moment. But let's have a look at how we would do that. And in this case, I'm going to want to put my stop just above the high of this fractal, looking back just about, what's that, 4-hour candles ago. Now, when we use pending orders, and we use a pending order that is a buy order, we always need to add the spread. So without getting into too much detail on that, I'd just like to note that our spread on this is about 1.5 pips. Plus, I also want to add that extra little bit of offset. So we're going to have our stop 2.5 pips above that high. So instead of using the new order button now, however, and as you can see, instead of doing that, you can just hit F9. It will also likewise open up that order ticket. I'm going to do something slightly different. What I'm going to do is just right-click in this area and bring up the standard context menu that will happen whenever you right-click on a blank area of the chart. And you'll notice that if you just go down one level, there is a tab that says trading. So you just go down to that, and it opens up a separate context window where you can, or context menu, where you can now choose between a couple of options, including stop and limit orders, which I'm going to get to in a minute. But for now, we just want to go to new order, which is exactly what we would have done before anyway. And then you can see it brings up a trade ticket again. You'll also notice that by default, it has kept our volume the same. Now, in actual fact, the volume would be very slightly different. I've pre-calculated these. So I'm just going to put that in 0.85. Now, remember, I want my stop to be 2.5 pips above this high. If you want to know more about all of that, then again, that is something that we have in our strategy training. So above the high, we've got 113,781 plus 2.5 pips, which would give me 113,806. 113.806. Always be, just take a time, double check what it is. Market execution, we want to sell by market, hit the button, and there we go. You'll see that we're in at the prevailing price at that time with the stop exactly where we wanted it to be. Once again, if I wanted to now set my take profit, I would just click and drag this to, let's say we wanted it just above that support level. And when I let go, it brings up the modification for the order ticket, click modify, and it's done. There we have it. There is our sell order, our sold at market. And of course, we would have our stop in the right place, and that take profit I adjusted subsequently. Now, the reason I always put the stop in first is just basic risk management. Folks, it is really something that's very, very important. With our funded trader program, where our venture capital partners pony up to $2 million for our successful members, it is one of the requirements that you always have the stop in as close as possible, well, as soon as possible, I should say, after your entry. They do give you a little bit of grace, but it is just good practice to put your desired stop level in before you execute the trade. All right, so once again, I'm just going to close down this trade. I want to point out that if we open up our terminal, you'll notice that in MT4, we do have that trade running here. And I can also close it down just by hitting that X, or again, I could just right click on that point and go to close order. So there's so many options in order to do what I need to do here. So there we go, close it, and we're out. All right, so nice and straightforward. Market execution is something that really is pretty simple. But for a lot of strategies, it is important that you know how to use pending orders. And there, as I mentioned before, are two types. The first is a stop order, and the second is a limit order. Now, what you don't know is that you've already started using them. Both your take profit and your stop loss are pending orders. If you have gone long, if you have bought the market, as we did just now with our first trade, that means our entry was a buy. It also means that your exits are both sell orders. The difference, however, is that the stop loss is, as the name would suggest, a sell stop order, and your take profit is a limit order. Now, we do get into the intricacies behind this in other training. It's actually very useful to know the differences between these different types of orders, in particular, the impact it has on liquidity in the market and where liquidity comes from. It also impacts how support and resistance are formed and broken, etc. So for price action traders, these are very important questions, and knowing about them is pretty important. But for now, let's just stick to the topic at hand, which is how to actually place these orders. Okay, so first of all, you need to note that you can't place for, let me just rephrase that, in fact, for a non-ECN broker, in other words, for most brokers out there that allow you to use relatively small accounts, you cannot place a pending order too close to current market price. The better the broker, and generally, as I say, is if you're using a proper ECN broker, there is no restriction. Either the closer you can place it to price, or there is no restriction at all. So our funded account broker, which is a proper ECN broker, actually allows you to place limit orders inside the spread, so between the bid and the ask line. But that's a topic as well for another day. Let's have a look at how to place a buy stop order with similar parameters to what we had just now. I'm going to keep the stop exactly where it needs to be, which is below the low of the fractal. So that price level is still going to be exactly the same, which is 113.33. But our entry now is going to be slightly different, and as a result, our money management, which leads to position sizing, is also going to be slightly different. Now, the way I'm going to do this, instead of hitting that new order button there, which we could, and there's a reason for this. If you hit the new order button, you then need to go and physically select pending order and decide which kind you want. And as I said, we're going to use a buy order in this case. However, if you do what I showed you a minute ago and you right click in or around that vicinity and select, if we go over here, you'll see that I'm actually too close to the price. So if I get a little bit further above, you'll see it only offers me the option to have a buy stop and a sell limit. I'd just like to point out, if I right click below current market price, it only offers me buy limit and sell stop. So the platform actually knows which options to offer you depending on where you have right clicked on the chart. Now, let's say I only want to go long if the price breaches, let's say, this candle high. In reality, we may have done something down here with this candle high, but we've missed that boat. So again, this is not about teaching you a strategy. I'm just going to right click here on the chart, which is going to bring up my trading option with a buy stop option. Now, in this particular case, we need to just reduce our position size. And again, I won't bore you with how to do that because we've got a good video on doing that. But the low here, 113.33 is what we were looking for. So 113.33. And I'm again going to, well, in this case, I'm in fact going to put the take profit in now. And we're going to make it 114.27 as we did before. Right, 114.3. By the way, you can just use these little buttons on the side if you want to adjust that. So I'm going to make it 0.29 in fact. Right, so everything else is in there. The nice thing about this, of course, because this is a pending order, you can actually ask the platform to expire the order after a certain amount of time. So you need to specify the time at which you want the order to be expired, assuming, of course, that it hadn't triggered by then. That is always good practice. So I'm just going to set this 1 hour hence and click. Now, this invalid parameters will come up generally when you have either your entry or your stop might be in the wrong place. So for instance, if on a buy order, we had our stop loss above the entry level, it would give an invalid parameters. That's not the case here. Take profit likewise, if this was below our entry price, it would also give the invalid parameters. But neither of those is a problem, which tends to indicate that we are trying to get in at a price that's too close to current market. Having made those adjustments now, you can see that it took that trade and replaced it, stops in the right place as is take profit. Now remember, this is not a trade, it is just an order. And in order for it to trigger, price will need to actually get to that level. The one thing worth noting as well is the price that will trigger it is the ask price. For all buy orders, as this is, they get triggered by the ask price. Now that's not visible here, but if I was just to go to the 1 minute chart, where it would be more visible, you'll notice that there are two price lines that are moving. The bottom one is the bid price, the top one is the ask price. The bid price is what triggers sell orders, and the ask price triggers buy orders, just in case you didn't know that. All right, so that's a pending order. It will only trigger if the ask price gets up to that level. In the meantime, however, I'm going to also just show you that if I got anything wrong there, I can actually drag that price. In fact, it'll drag everything, as long as I don't try and drag it too close to current price. Let me just do that, and it should, you'll see it doesn't even allow me to modify the trade because we are trying to get it too close to current market price. And because it's a buy stop, I won't be able to take it below that price line either. I can only push it up. All right, so let's look at a limit order. I'm going to just delete that. Now, if we wanted to use a limit order, we would need to, certainly if we want to use a buy limit order, then we would need to actually place the order below current market price. So if you ever struggle to remember which is which, remember limit order is a better price, a stop order is a worse price. So if you're buying, it's good to buy cheap and sell high, or buy low and sell high, so you want to be lower, and a limit order gives you a better price. A lot of people say, well, why not always use limit orders? Well, they also help you to avoid the spread. And the answer is simple. You often will miss out on the trade, especially if it's a really good one. That is the only real risk. Okay, so I'm going to just right click again in the vicinity of where I want to place a buy limit order. You'll notice that it gives me that option there already, but in this case, it's not giving me the right position size, and I want to open up my order ticket here anyway. So in this case, we actually are going to be trading 1.02. The stop loss again below the low. And this looks like I've selected exactly the wrong thing. So you'll notice the type here saying sell stop. Let me just fix that. I'm going to right click, trading buy limit. There we go. So you can see now it is correct. 1.02. The stop, as before, is 113.33. And I'm also going to put in my take profit at the same level, 114.29. Remember, we can put an expiry over here. Just remember, it also needs to be far enough in the future. Take place. And there we go. So this is a buy limit order. Also, just to point out to you that on the left-hand side of our screen, it actually tells you what kind of order it is. If that just said buy, it would mean that you were actually in a trade. But as it says buy limit, or if it says buy stop, it means it's a pending order and it hasn't actually triggered. Another question people often ask me is there a cost associated with placing an order without a triggering? And the answer is no, absolutely not. You only pay a spread or any relevant commission if the trade actually triggers. Again, I'm just right clicking on the line. I always do this. It's the easiest, just to delete it. And there we have it. Right, so that leaves us now with the sell orders for pending orders. So the first one we're going to look at would be a sell stop order. So let's say we wanted to sell this market if price breached below that low, which would be a kind of an overlay strategy for those of you who are Academy members. So I'm just going to right click over there. We go to trading and sell stop. In this case, it's a slightly smaller position size. Remember, our stop in this case, I want to actually place above the high of this candle. It's the same 113.781 plus the 2.5 pips, which is 113.806. So I'm just putting these numbers in manually for the moment. Of course, if you're using any of our tools, such as the trade placer, you won't need to do any of this because the software will do it for you. Right, in this case, let's say our take profit, we want it to be 112.8. Just bring up a number here. That's wrong, obviously. 112.8. You can put in a comment if you like. It's a sell stop. We can always set our expiry sometime in the future. Going to click place. And it obviously wants us to be a little bit further in the future. It's a bit too close to current time. And there we go. Right, so there's a sell stop, entry below the low, stop above the high. And there we have the take profit that is fairly representative of what we would be looking at for an overlay strategy. Okay, so again, to get rid of this one, I'm just going to go to delete, right click, delete, hit that button, and it's gone. Right, that now leaves us with the final one, which is a sell limit order. And I'm going to place it just above current price. Now remember, if I right click in any part of the chart and I go to trading, it will only offer me the relevant pending orders. So I can't use a sell stop here. As you notice, the only sell option is in fact sell limit. And in this case, our position size would again be, I think, 0.65, a bit lower. And you definitely don't want to make the mistake there, which is why I always go and check to make sure that the volume is correct. And again, that is a very good reason why you want to use an automated trade placer, because it will never make a human mistake with position sizing. All right, so our price, you'll notice that it's pre-loaded. So that's exactly where I right-clicked on the chart. And again, we want our stop to be above the high, so 113.806. Right, and take profit, what did I say? 112.8. See, you always got to double check. 112.8. Not going to worry about the expiry. Hit place, and there you have it. Massive reward to risk ratio, as you can see on this one. We didn't get in quite the same position as we had earlier, but you'll notice when it comes to a stop order versus a limit order, with the same stop level and the same take profit, you've got a much higher reward to risk ratio. So that is the benefit, but as I say, there is a cost in terms of the fact that you're more likely to miss the trades. We use limit orders for all of our harmonic pattern trading. If you're using BATs, Gartleys, and so on, that is the standard type of order that you will use. All right, folks, so just to summarize again, we are looking at how to buy and sell on MT4. We're just using the standard tools available on MT4 at the moment. So if that's all you want and all you need, then if you've enjoyed this material, again, then please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for a lot more training in the future. If you want to know how to use a tool that does most of this for you, then stick around, because I'm going to show you in a minute. But before I do that, let me right click and delete this. And there we go. Right, so a very useful tool that our members have. And if you're watching this and you would like a copy of this, you just need to know how to install it, which we do show you in our other training on how to customize MT4. So if you don't know how to do that, then please go and look at our channel, subscribe to it, and look at all the content that's available in there, and all the tools and tips and tricks that we teach you on how to make the most out of your trading platform. But what I'm going to show you now is that if you have got it installed, all you need to do is load it onto your chart. It is a custom indicator called Position Size Calculator. Just need to click OK. And once again, it's from the GoPro Trading Academy, and you're welcome to have a copy of this with our compliments. You just need to send us a message, and you'll see the links below this. But otherwise, send us a message at support@gptacademy.com, and we will gladly send you a copy for your own use. All right, so what we're going to do now is really just do a couple of those. I'm not going to worry about market execution, but it is worth noting that at the moment, the order type is instant, which does mean market execution. I can change that just by clicking on it, instant, pending. And you'll notice as I do that, it makes the entry box available or unavailable. The other thing also to note is that the type, whether you're going long or short, depends on where this is. So you can, in fact, change that. But for now, what I'd like to do is show you how to place those pending orders. As for most strategies that you learn in the beginning, that's what you need to do. And anyone can just click the button to use market execution. All right, so remember stop loss level. If we wanted to go long over here, we would be placing our stop below the low of this fractal, 113.33, and you just need to change that number now in this box. I'll just put in some zeros there, just make sure we don't have anything else. Right. We could also, and you'll notice as well that we have the lines showing. So it immediately moved this green line to the position as to where that stop loss is going to be. Right, so what did we say earlier? 114.29. Let's just do that and I'll take profit. Just so you can see, tab out of it. And you'll see there's a yellow line right at the top of the screen that now represents that level. And we can immediately hit, if we wanted to go long over here, we use our Control P hotkey, and that would immediately get us into a trade. I'm going to show you how that works though with a pending order in a minute. Now, of course, if you wanted to go short instead, then you just need to change these numbers around. Remember, our stop loss for our short trade was above the high, 113.806. 113.806. We'd need to change our take profit. I just like to point out that the software immediately knows now that we're going short, because of course, if your stop is above your entry, that means you must be going short. So it knows that. Take profit, we said, well, let's just go for 113 just to keep life simple. Tab out of that, and there you'll see the yellow line just on that support level. Now, if I hit Control P, it would literally instantly place a trade and it would automatically calculate the correct position size. So right now, and this is using 1% risk per trade, which is higher than what I was calculating it on earlier, but you can adjust this number according to what percentage of your account you risk from trade to trade. And again, please look at that risk management training that we've got here in the Academy to learn more about that. So if I wanted to, for instance, change this to 0.2% per trade, it changes everything else, including the position size. So that tells me how much I'm risking on the trade. That tells me how much, and you can see as price is moving at the moment, because we're expecting an at-market trade. So as the price at which I'm potentially going to enter moves, this blue line is moving, it's also recalculating my position size instantaneously, also my risk and reward, everything else that you need. So again, all I need to do now is hit my hotkey and it would place that trade for me. But let's have a look at a pending order option. Let's go for, again, our sell stop. And let's say we wanted to put that in just below this fractal low, which was 113.33. So I need to first of all change this from instant to pending. Entry is 113.330. And there it is. You see it's moved the blue line. Now, this is not a trade I would favor with a less than 1-to-1 reward to risk ratio, but you can actually see that here in our position size calculator, where the risk is obviously the same because we're risking 0.2 in monetary terms, but the reward is significantly less. So if you were trading a reward to risk ratio strategy, which requires, let's say, a 1-to-1 reward to risk ratio, all you need to do is adjust your take profit to achieve that. Now, I'm not saying that this is necessarily the best way to do things, but if I was to, let's say, change this to 1-1, and again, we always need to make sure that you get those numbers in correctly. There you can see now it's moved our take profit to a little bit more than a 1-to-1 reward to risk ratio, and there you can actually see the amount that you stand to make should you take this trade. And again, very importantly, it's calculated our position size for us. And this is the number that a lot of people potentially get wrong. You remember we were we had to input that number first when we were using the standard order ticket. You don't need to worry about it as it's taken care of for you. All right, so this is a sell stop. One thing to note, you need to have auto trading engaged in order to take the trade. Now, I'm going to hide those lines just so I can illustrate what happens when I go Control P. There it is. Literally the stroke of one key, it has placed the trade for me. And if we move this, you can see it's a sell stop. It's not a trade, I beg your pardon. It's an order with all the correct parameters all in place. If we go and have a look at it on our terminal, there it is, sell stop. There's the position size, prices, take profit, stop loss, you name it. Very easy. Okay, I'm going to now just close that down so that we can actually look at, in this case, I'm just going to show you a buy limit order. And I think you're getting the point by now, I'm sure, as to how you can do all of this. The buy limit order would need to be below current market price. So let's say if price came down to 113.45, it's a pending. So entry 113.45. Now stop again. Would we want to be below the fractal here? So 113.33. Just make sure you don't leave any residue there. Take profit, we're still going to go for, let's say, 114.3. We were using 2.9 earlier, weren't we? Okay, so let's keep it at that. I'm going to show the lines, and you can see there's a very tight entry to stop, which gives us a big reward to risk ratio. Obviously, the success ratio on trades like this is lower, but that is compensated for the high reward to risk ratio, but you need to be a bit more experienced to go through a higher proportion of losers. All right, so there you can see it. I'm going to hide those lines again, and I'm just going to hit Control P for my hotkey, and there is the order. It calculated correctly for me the position size, which is a very different number now. Still 0.2% risk on the trade, but far fewer pips at risk. The distance in pips between our entry and stop is a lot smaller, a lot lower than it was in the previous order that I showed you. But you'll notice that the amount that you're risking on this trade is in fact the same. And that is the objective with correct risk management, as you will learn in the risk management training. There, however, is the reward. So we stand to make a lot more. The reward to risk ratio is just under 7-to-1 on this trade, which is really, really big. And our position size has been correctly calculated. All right, folks, so that's how you use it. You can see it's a lot easier, not just easier, but it takes away the risk of human error when using tools like this. As I say, you're welcome to have a complimentary copy of this from us. You'll need to also just learn how to customize MT4, but all of that training is available for you inside of the Academy's channel. So again, if you've enjoyed this material, folks, hit that like button. And if you are not already a subscriber and you're finding our training useful, make sure you do subscribe and hit that notifications bell so that you know exactly when we bring out new trading. We are going to be looking at bringing out some strategy training in the near future, and you really don't want to miss that. All right, folks, so hope you found this useful. Let me know in the comments below if you've got any questions at all, and I will answer each one personally. But in the meantime, that's it from me. Bye for now.